Can you pop the webcam up slightly? Because we're cutting off the top of your head.
What I'll do is I'll do this instead. I'll sink down.
Oh, that looks really uncomfortable though.
I'm slouching. John. I've been working all day. My shoulders ache. Right. I've been mopping floors. I've mopped the tiered seating at Neil's. I've hoovered every damn floor. I actually want to slouch now. Just slouch.
This is the Sheer Isolation podcast. It's presented by Kieran Moore and John Ponting. Welcome, hello, once again. Another week has passed already. This is the Sheer Isolation podcast with myself, John Ponting in Crickley, my friend over there, Kieran Moore in Trowbridge. Howdy, Kieran.
Hi, John.
For those who aren't too familiar with what we do, over the next half hour, we are going to do our best to promote the local music scene across the region, play a couple of tracks, got an interview lined up as always. Kieran, I'm handing over to you to explain who the interview man is, because I don't know.
So this is interesting because I don't actually know the guy. This is completely fresh. This is brand new. This is like the first time I've spoken to him ever. He added me on Facebook, like out of the blue. So I never accept a friend's book just on a whim. I just have to look at the person first. I looked at him. He was an account manager, like an agent at Live Nation, who were one of the UK's biggest promoter bookers. His name is Daniel Roberts at Live Nation. He's furloughed at the moment, so that's obviously an interesting aspect, because obviously there's no live events. So we'll be asking him some questions about that shortly. But yeah, he's completely new to me. He reached out to me via Facebook. I think it's due to the fact of MVT, etc. We're all in these groups. And he's obviously seen my profile crop up a few times, and he thought, I'll add you. I've seen him and gone, interesting, you can come on my podcast.
So that'll be the Music Venues Trust, which I know you've mentioned quite a lot, and you're quite an ambassador for supporting MVT, aren't you?
No, I am. I do love MVT. They do a great job. Hopefully next year they're going to sort out PRS as well. So
one thing at a time, eh? Get COVID out of the way first, and then we'll start on the PRS issue.
I prefer to call it PR mess.
Well, we'll say that for a whole other time. Let's do a PRS special in a few weeks, shall we?
Yeah, we'll get one of them reps on and see what they've got to say about it.
That's an idea. All right, we'll do that. I'll let you try and sweet talk them into coming on. That'd be a laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, right. What I need to do now, though, is bring us down, because we're going to do a quick obituary, which is the first one that we've had to do for Sheer Isolation.
Yeah.
And sad to report the passing of a Stroud-based musician called Marion Miller. Now, people across Stroud will recognise the name. She used to have a show on Stroud FM. She did a show on Rock Radio UK as well. On Stroud FM, she had a show called Lady Plays the Blues. Now, Marion, I suppose she's really well known for organising the Quarry Gig, which was a weekend-long event which took place down Stroud. That was an annual music weekend which raised money for the Meningitis Trust. She just loved all kinds of music. So she was a blues guitarist herself, but she also just went for all kinds of blues and rock, and just loved music all the way across the spectrum. I'm not too sure on whether she was ill or whether it's sudden. I don't really know any information. I haven't been able to find that out. But we did want to pay our respect to Marion, just as a fellow broadcaster and fellow lover of local music. Sad announcement there. What we're going to do is play a track from a band who we know that she really likes. She booked them to play at Quarry a couple of times. The Gloucester-based band called Folklaw. Some real mad fiddling skills in this track. It's a recording from the Great British Folk Festival from a few years ago, and the track is Mad Fiddler.
I spied an old mad fiddler rubbing his hands in glee. He'd made a mince play in a stint in the streets of Dundee. Was ablaze with airs and refrains. He learned from his sweetheart in Tyree. He learned from his sweetheart in Tyree. Hop, hey! Headed down to Murphy's bar and hung up his old coat, and said that every drum that night would be on his account. And every man was merry, the whiskey freely flowed. They smiled as he rosined up his bow. They smiled as he rosined up his bow. said that every drum that night would be on the cone. And pipes of Lucky came in at 10 till 1, and he left with a spring in his toes. His toes, a spring in his Glaswegian toes. And the last song was sung, and the music had faded away. He had for the night, with nothing but his case and his fiddle for to play another day. His fiddle for to play another day.
With a title like Mad Fiddler, you would expect to see some absolutely bombastic fiddling skills on display.
Indeed you do, yeah. The fiddler, he's the front man for the band. It's Nick Gibbs. So they're based in Gloucester. They're quite well known. They don't just play in the UK. They play in across Germany and Europe quite a lot. They used to before the year we've had. But they do, as you can hear, they do quite a traditional sound, but with a kind of a mixing traditional rock sound quite nicely, quite fusing it really well. So yeah, that was Folklaw with Mad Fiddler, which was recorded by them at the 2015 Great British Folk Festival, which takes place in Skegness, of all places.
Yes, it's a bizarre one, that, isn't it? So this week's guest is a guy called Daniel Roberts. Daniel is the Assistant General Manager at Cardiff Motorpoint, as well as being a General Manager at Live Nation, the promoters. So we're going to talk to him about how those two different roles play with each other, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of interesting stuff to say. Take it away. What is it that you do?
What is it I do? I'm the Deputy General Manager of the Motorpoint Arena in Cardiff. So I've been there for around, I think coming up for 17, maybe 18 years. Yeah, 18 years it will be in November. Quite a long time.
Yes.
But I started as a barman back in 2002 and just worked my way through, you know.
That's quite impressive.
Well, thank you very much.
No, that genuinely is. Nobody stays at one job for 18 years and then works from barman up to general manager. That's amazing.
You'd be even more surprised if you knew me.
Well, I'm going to get to know you, I'm sure.
Well, I was lucky enough as well as the career progressed, because I was the catering manager and the front of house manager and all the different managers there are. Yeah. And then in the summertime, I would go off and work for Live Nation on the festivals. So I was a commercial manager or a deputy commercial manager, whatever you want to call it, really. I was somebody's helper, really. Right. In Download, Creamfields. I ran the bars for Creamfields for about 4 years, I think, something like that. You know, all of the wireless festivals, that sort of thing. So my experience has been pretty broad. When you're actually doing it, you don't really think about it. It's only when people raise it that you...
yes. You look back on it and you think, crikey, actually, I've done all these different facets.
Well, I've always been, you know, I was supposed to be a rock star, so it's about as close as I've got.
So you say you've been working at the Motorpoint for 18 years. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. Obviously, you must have seen some incredible shows. I've been to the Motorpoint millions of times watching shows.
Oh, cool.
So what's your relationship with the artists and the promoters, etc., when they come to your venue? What do you do?
We're the first contact for the promoters. So the promoters will give us a ring, and they will check the diary dates. They'll give us a chat about who the artists are, what they want to do. And generally speaking, I mean, depending on who it is, they'll try and get the cheapest possible deal they can.
Of course.
I say depending on who it is. It doesn't really depend on who it is. It's just how it is.
You always, I know, I'm the same. When I work with venue, I want to get the cheapest deal possible. So I get it.
Of course you do. And I would always make you think you had.
Hey, there you go.
Hey. all of the main promoters will generally give us a ring, because the audience in Cardiff is quite specific.
Right.
You know, as you're doing the touring circuit, it's a bit of an effort to come up from Bristol and in and around again, you know.
Yeah.
So it has to be the right kind of show to fit the right sort of audience, really. And in Cardiff, it's weird. It's always surprised me a little bit. But things like any reggae show at all will completely empty Newport, and everybody comes down from Newport.
Really?
And UB40 sells out straight away. It's bizarre. You would think that you know, it would be, well, obviously the Welsh acts, they all sell out straight away. It's always the homecoming acts as well. So, you know, it just depends on what goes on. But I tend to deal with a lot of first-time promoters. You get a lot of people ringing up, saying things like, oh, I want to put, I've got to contact so-and-so and I want to put a boxing match on, or I want to put a UFC thing on. And I tend to deal with those type of people a bit more.
That's really interesting. So from your first contact, that's great, because actually I've been a promoter for 16 years.
Oh, nice.
And
I've never done a deal with you yet, have I?
No, you haven't. No, not at all. I'm not that level, mate. I'm not that level. I'm sort of 500 cap venues. So much.
No, don't. We've got smaller space as well. You know, you should give me a shout. We've got 100 seater for comedy and stuff like that, and we've got somewhere you could fit about 300 in for folk and comedy. Somewhere, you know.
I was going to say, what's the capacity of the main arena?
The main arena, we can fit 7,500 standing. There's various seating capacities. So the biggest seating capacity would be about 5,000.
Places like Bristol's well known for not having a large size venue, so you get a lot of traffic, I imagine, from where we are in Wiltshire and Bristol and Swindon direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
The biggest venue for miles around.
Absolutely. We'll have an act maybe that is on the verge of arena tours. So who do we have? Gaslight Anthem. This is a couple of years back now. And they were on the verge of, or the promoter was trying to persuade them to do an arena tour, but they were very nervous about, you know, a half-empty hall and that sort of thing. Yeah. So what we do is we have the seating matrix is all in bleachers, and they kind of fold up, they concertina up.
Yeah.
And we use them as walls so that, I'm trying to think of an example. Oh, yeah, Marina Diamontes played last year, it must have been. It didn't sell as many tickets as they'd hoped. And so what we were able to do was bring the hall in so that it looks full at around about 2,000.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Well, it's as much for the artist as anything else, really. Nobody wants to see an empty hall. But yeah, what we try and do is I reckon we could probably get down to about 1,500 and still make it worth our while.
Oh,
and well, you know, if it's a question of when we say worth our while, we're going to get whatever we get from the ticketing, and that's pretty much it, and the rental. And obviously we'll charge an extortionate amount for Wi-Fi, which you promoters all like to moan about. But we all know what we're up to.
Mate, like I bring a hotspot now. I've got a hotspot that costs me like 30 quid a month. Boom.
Well, we'll be charging a tax on that. Whatever, man. We'll charge you for something.
Well, that's really interesting, because it brings us nicely onto what the work that MVT have been doing, the Music Venues Trust, because this whole situation we've seen has really exposed how fragile venues are.
Oh, yeah. We're utterly fucked at the moment.
Absolutely. And obviously your work with Live Nation, obviously, is almost at odds with your work in a venue, in the sense that they're a promoter and you're a venue.
Not from there.
Yeah, of course. I have a real issue, not an issue actually. I've been building to this thing where I think we need to have a much more honest, transparent conversation about how venues make money, about the proportion they're taking from shows. Because at the moment, artists basically get such a good deal, venues don't. And we're now seeing venues struggling and closing. That should never be the case.
It's been one of those things, I think, that I've always been quite lucky in terms of working in the venue that I work. So you look around and you see venues like the Welsh Club, and you see the Goodie Who's a good example. The Goodie Who was a fantastic little venue.
I love that venue.
Absolutely fantastic. But you couldn't fit anybody in there, and it was probably illegal mostly. But nevertheless, it's venues like that I personally would prefer to see, you know, the big bands go in and just do little shows in, you know. And it's venues like that are relying on the bar takes, because that's where we would make our money. I hope nobody from Live Nation is watching this and I'm giving away all the secrets. You know, like you say, I've got no problem with explaining to you backstage why I'm charging you 50 quid for Wi-Fi. And it's got nothing to do with Wi-Fi.
Yes, well, there you go, yeah.
The principle. It's the principle of the matter.
No, I totally get that. And I mean, I see it I work in a venue and I'm also a promoter. I do see it from both sides.
Yeah.
And I think that it always boils down to the fact that artists take the lion's share of everything. And even like the support bands getting paid like 50 quid on an arena show.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be like this.
No, I don't think it does. And I think that there should be I would say at the moment there is a huge division between the artist. There's barriers. The promoter is the barrier, if you see what I mean, between the artist and the venue.
Yeah.
And the aim of the promoter, I think, a lot of the time is to prevent the venue getting too close to the artist, or the artist getting too close to the venue, because otherwise there wouldn't be much point in having a promoter.
No, cut out the middle.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's essentially what it is, because when you get comedy acts in, for example, so someone like Rod Gilbert will come in, and you can sit down and have a chat with him, Michael McIntyre, because it's just him. And he will go and say hello to everyone in the bar. Ricky Gervais will go and say hello to people and all that sort of thing. But the bands, there's this whole kind of thing of, wow, look, we're backstage and we can smoke dope and we can do whatever we want. And of course you can't. You cannot. But the point being, it's kind of this weird kind of cocoon that they're in, which is really odd if you think about it.
Yeah, well, that's it. The whole industry fundamentally is unregulated, isn't it? It pretty much can do what you like as long as you're willing to do it. And that's what the conversation is all about. Well,
I think it's summed up, you can usually get out of most situations by just saying it's rock and roll, isn't it?
That's the quote there, John.
True though, isn't it?
That copyrighted.
Anyway, so change the subject slightly. You told me you're furloughed. So how is that impacting on, obviously your life, but fundamentally how you see the industry? How's that affecting it?
What's been happening with me, the furlough thing has been relatively helpful, as stupid as it sounds, because it's given me an opportunity to start budgeting and acting sensibly, and to start living within my means, if you know what I mean. Because when I was working in the festivals, there was big chunks of money coming in the summer and I just spend it and blah, blah, blah. But no, the furlough for me is giving me a chance. I mean, Christ, I'm 45 now, 46 next month. And I'm finally starting to look at my bank statements.
You said earlier that you can still make your venue work for you on, say, a 1,500 capacity, but your maximum is like 7,000.
Yeah.
Is there a way of you having a 1,500 capacity on social distancing? So could you, in theory, still run events?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you'd be looking at in terms of, I mean, again, I'm saying this unqualified. This is my own opinion, not the opinion of Live Nation. But when you're looking at a capacity for a venue, you're looking at a certain amount of space around each person. The difficulty would be in maintaining that space. Yeah. And short of putting people with big hoops around them. Yeah. I don't know, man. Bumper cars.
You mentioned earlier on about how your the Motorpoint venue's got different rooms, so you can do smaller comedy acts, say 100 capacity. Something that myself and Kieran have talked about a couple of times is how we're seeing that the live music scene is starting at the grassroots, starting in the pubs, and we think it's just going to be a stepped event that gradually more larger venues are going to come online. Would that kind of fit with what you're thinking? Maybe Motorpoint would open the.
It would 100% fit with what I'm thinking as a venue manager. Whether or not it's a coincidence or anything, I mean, we're associated with all the academy venues as well, the O2 academies. So most of the bigger ones, Birmingham's got an Academy 1, an Academy 2, an Academy 3. Now, you could take a cynical point of view and say, well, that's just so they can make more money off the bar, because the bar is, it generates enough money to keep us all in business. And that's why, we're in this situation now, because that money's gone. That's the income for the company. But if you take it from the point of view of venue managers, then that's exactly what it is. It's a step up type thing. So you can start people at the grassroots. So, for example, in our comedy venue, one person that comes there quite a lot, we had Jack Whitehall in the main hall, and he was supported by Lloyd Griffith, who's from Newport, I believe. And then he came through his agency and he filled out the 100-seater venue. Do you see what I mean? So it kind of flips them back. And what we can do, because it's a really nice kind of bar that we've got there, so we can cover our costs with the bar, and all our costs are really our security and a barman. And you can get small bands in there, but it's not a brilliant. But if you're a teenage band and you can say that you've played at the arena, then that's what they want, isn't it? You know what I mean?
That's exactly that. Building it up bit by bit. I love that.
We've got so much space. It's frustrating that we can't use it. Even when we're open and running, there are certain spaces where you just like, my God, you can get 3,000 people in here. Wow. But we've got to go through the fire officer, and so sometimes it'd be nice just to shake off the Live Nation shackles and just go and have a warehouse rave somewhere, you know, like the old days.
I know on Kieran's email he did say about if you wanted to pick a track for us to play. No,
yes. And you said about West Country. So not West Country as such, but I would like to hear Devil Woman by Goldie Lookin Chain.
Yes.
There's not too much
We can
swearing in
accept that. We can definitely do GLC.
It's a classic. So if it's not Devil Woman, then there's no swearing in Pusher Man.
Yeah, that's right. It's a Goldie Lookin Chain, rolling on dubs like Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear before he got sacked for punching a bloke in the face for giving him a sandwich.
I got smashed last night and I'm still steaming. Put on my headphones so I can't hear you screaming. Give you loads of sweets to keep you happy, cause you know there's no way I'm changing that nappy. Pushing round town in a brand new trackie with a can of Stella and a puff of wacky backy. You knows what it's like when I'm on a mission, going down McDonald's with my brand new addition. But my sex appeal is on the increase.
She's so cute, what's her name?
It's Shanice.
How old is she?
Yeah, she just turned 4.
Is she your only one?
Look, I fucking loads more. You checking out my wheels, I loves how it feels, and it makes it easy to shoplift and steal. Pushing real fast and we're picking up speed, and there's space underneath for the nappies and the weed. That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it. Drinking a can, I'm pushing it round. You'll push it. That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it. There's a globetrotter on the major elite. These are types of buggies you can find on the street. Or the twin Triumph if your missus has twins. So come with extra baskets for carrying things. Lightweight frame, easy to hold, simple to pack with a one-hand fold. You want peace of mind when you're pushing little Peter, and possibly an optional baby milk heater. Made by specialists, used by us. It's still a fucking nightmare trying to get them on a bus. Have you ever tried pushing one home in a rain? And getting up the stairs is a massive ball of pain. It's like Formula 1 without the motor. I take it in turns with my missus on a rotor. So take my advice, when little Timmy whinges, he's probably cut his finger off on one of the hinges. That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it. Drinking a can, I'm pushing it round. You'll push it. That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it.
I seen Shogun Assassin, now we're going one more. Spin round my pram when I'm busting on the dance floor. Fat rims, bass bins on my quinny. Playing Future Sound of London's Papua New Guinea. Had a wham, bam, thank you ma'am. It's not the end of the story, now I'm pushing a pram. Like the baby car at the river Styx. Shut up your crying and eat your chips, yeah.
My missus and her sister get it for tan, so I'm stuck in town, pushing a pram. Why do people always stop and stare when you spark up spliff in mother care? They say, who's that gigolo on the street with a pram in his hand and his high-tech feet? Now it's off to Wetherspoons for a couple more drinks. Leave the baby outside cause his nappy stinks. Iceland, Proudland, charity shopping. Keep on pushing cause there ain't no stopping. When you're pushing the pram, people know you're a winner.
Well, fuck up your evil, you're not getting dinner.
Kids coming benefits, you know what I mean? She still goes in the pram even though she's 13. I might be the daddy but it's only part-time. Get the test results soon to see if she's mine.
Pushing a pram in between smokes.
I like the colour, do they make it for blokes?
Wheeling my kids around in his chair. He can almost skin up but knows how to swear.
I kept on puffing like Thomas the Tank. Now can't remember where I parked it cause my mind's gone blank.
When I'm high or off my head, the kid gets up and pushes me instead.
That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it. Drinking a can, I'm pushing it round. You'll push it. That's what I was doing, that's who I am. You'll push it.
Oh, isn't it nice to hear a bit of GLC on the radio? That doesn't happen very often.
It does not happen. I love hearing a bit of GLC on the radio.
Karen, there's been a couple of bits of news this week, and as ever, I would like to run your professional thinking mind around them.
Yeah.
Let's start with COVID and the latest COVID announcements. Now, in terms of how the most recent changes are going to affect venues, I'm guessing it's this new 10 p.m. curfew. Now, over your shoulder, you've got the John Gom gig, which is supposed to be coming up in 10th of December. I'm assuming it is still going ahead as planned, but what's going to happen with this strict 10 p.m. cutoff if it's still there by December?
Well, that's an interesting one because they've announced that it's going to be there until March, haven't they? They said it's going to be 6 months. So in theory, this curfew now exists until March. So from our venue's point of view, from the Nield in Chippenham, We haven't actually done any work yet with regards to those events, but the reality of it is, if those events do go ahead in one form or another, it doesn't matter, we're going to have to bring our event times forwards. So whereas normally it'd be like doors at 7, show at 6:30 or whatever, it's going to have to be doors at 6 and show at 6:30 or whatever. So there's definitely going to have to be a shifting of event times. Now, I did a funny comment update earlier on my Facebook page saying, has anybody's notifications gone crazy with XYZ bands changing the time of their events? Because I've been inundated, all the events that I'm attending on Facebook, all the events have been brought forwards all the times. So will this have any effect whatsoever on COVID? Absolutely not, because people are still going to go out. They're just going to go home earlier. So make of that what you will. But the events will still happen. I think they're just going to happen earlier.
That is your scientific opinion on bringing the show bars an hour early.
Yeah.
Nothing official.
Yeah, no. In regards to the John Gong gig, so I haven't spoken to the venue yet because obviously it only happened yesterday. To be honest, they brought it earlier. That's fine. We'll finish at 10. It's not a problem. I don't know what time it was scheduled to finish actually, but I have a feeling it wasn't that much later than 10 actually anyway, but that's merely coincidence. I have a feeling it was a 10 o'clock finish, but hey, we finish at 10, fine.
I suppose quite a lot of venues do have a 10 p.m. curfew just because of where they're based, particularly those in inner cities, but as I understand it, this 10 p.m. is the strict doors must close at 10. It's not last orders, it is the absolute last person out the door by 10. So I don't know whether some venues will struggle with that.
Management, I guess, at the end of the day, how you manage it. I'm sure venues can do it. It will again have implied costs because you've got to staff things earlier. But I'm sure, and you need. This is the thing: is you need to have so many more staff now to make these things work. But the social distancing, etc. And whilst you're not there to police people's bubbles, you still have to be able to say to people, "This is where you sit there all night, behave like." People taking you to your table, that sort of thing. Yeah, venues, you know what? Venues are full of people that make things happen. So without a shadow of a doubt, whatever the harebrained scheme the government come up with next, people in venues always make it happen. So it will definitely happen. Doors will open, they'll shut on time, people out, it'll all happen. It'll just be a pain in the ass.
That does remind me of a post I saw on Facebook, one of those things that gets shared a million times. And it was an idea that we need to hand control of the country over to festival organisers, because if they can make like 200,000 capacity festival work with a couple of golf carts and some walkie-talkies and a bit of gaffer tape, they can fix the country. Simple. We could do that, can we? We've been there.
100%, John. We've been there. I'm telling you now, the events industry is full of people that make stuff happen. They're the sorts of people that they're not the sorts of people who have a problem to every solution. They're the sort of people that have the solution to every problem. They get things over the line, they make it happen. So yeah, I agree with that meme entirely. It's 100% truthful. The more festival organisers we have running our day-to-day lives, the better.
Have you got any news you wanted to cover today?
Well, there's loads of. Have you been following the beef that's existing online with idols? So they talk about putting your foot in your mouth. They did an interview with The Guardian where they effectively said that they can't afford to take women on tour with them. So they've always been about platforming and equal rights and all that stuff. And they said that they publicly said they couldn't afford Nadine Shah. Now Nadine then went on to Twitter to then say, that's not how it played out, guys. It was totally different to how you've described it. And they're friends, but they're having this kind of very honest, robust debate on Twitter. Obviously the fans have piled in. So Fat White Families then responded to Joe Talbot from Idols. So Fat White Families then responded with their own rundown of how they feel about Idols, who then also responded via the paper. It's really entertaining, really interesting. If you're a fan of Idols and a fan of Fat Whites, hearing the two different opinions is really interesting.
We've just got to say our usual bits, that if anyone wants to get in touch, email is the best way, sheerisolation@gmail.com. We will be back with you at the usual time next week. I say usual time because I don't know when you're listening to us, because you can listen to us whenever you like on various streaming services and on YouTube.
Yeah. We'll have a guest next week. I'm hoping the guest will be Rhiannon Maya, Rhiannon, who was meant to be our guest 2 weeks ago, couldn't do it, got postponed. So next week's guest is going to be Rhiannon, and we're going to be talking about being a producer and all the wonderful things she does.
It's nice that we're so popular, isn't it? We've got guests lining up to speak to us, isn't that
We
lovely?
have, yeah. That's great.
Right, I know you've got another birthday party to get to, so I will leave you be. It's been a pleasure, mate. Nice to have a chat to you.
Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you very soon.
See you next week, bud.
Take care.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.
Bye now.
Cheers, man. Take care, Dan.
Cheers.
Bye.
Here we go. Can't get rid of it.
You've got to figure it out.
There you go.
There we go. Cool.
Cheers,
See you
man.
later, mate. Cheers.
Nearly gone.
Bye.
All right,
Nearly
bye.
there. Oh, fuck it. There we go.